Knights of Guinevere is the brand new indie pilot released by Glitch this week that has quite possibly made animation history upon its release. This is Glitch's first 2D animation project, and the final product blows all visual expectations out of the water. Nowhere else is quite doing indie animation like this. With their worldwide smash hit show, The Amazing Digital Circus, set to finish up in the next few episodes, this could truly be the chance for this to be the next huge hit for Glitch Productions. Today, I want to talk about some of the great stuff we got in just this one pilot episode, specifically some of the great characters and story setups that we got and the online discussions around it. So already online, there's been a lot of discussion about the character of Olivia. She's the first character that we meet in the show. She's very mysterious, but there's a few things we learned about her right off the bat. 1. She has some kind of special connection to Gwen, which also correlates to her fixing her in some way. Either she is an engineer of Gwen's of some sort, or etc. 2. Something recently happened to this little girl. Orville mentions something weird. He says that he hopes that the building of the park planet itself can make up for something that happened to her. There's this really cool visual cue that happens where the fireworks are lighting up her eyes in these multicolors, and the second that the incident is mentioned, the light leaves her eyes, indicating this very interesting shift in mood. It's very clear that something very bad happened to this little girl, and I'm very curious as to what it could be. And the third thing is that she treats this Gwen very cruelly and coldly. I was seeing a lot of confusion about this on communities online, but we do also see Olivia in other parts of this show's pilot. We see her aged up briefly in a montage shot, and there was a lot of confusion about who this old woman was, but the old woman that we see later on in the show is in fact Olivia. We know this for sure because if you happen to have the captions on, they in fact say it is Olivia that is speaking. And then let's talk about the world building that's going on around Olivia herself in this scene. I saw many people on TikTok and Instagram notice that the moon behind her head on her bed frame makes it look like she has devil horns, and that is entirely intentional by the artistic team and is definitely meant to convey exactly what she is. She's also surrounded by these sort of handmaidens that, to me anyway, correlate to the star pups that are surrounding Gwennavir and Frankie. Obviously, Olivia is old at this point and is hooked up to many sort of machines, and there's what looks like food and medicines and other debris kind of thrown everywhere. This alludes to the idea that Olivia is refusing anything and everything that isn't news of her Gwennavir. It looks like this is a very chaotic bedroom that's been made into a hospital room of sorts. It's in fact the same room that we see in the beginning of the pilot, but it has since been converted to what we see it as today. Another thing that I immediately noticed is behind her in this room, there is a portrait. We don't get to see everybody fully in the portrait, but one of the things that we see is a little girl that looks exactly like her, except for having black hair. The first thing I thought of was how sometimes there is a trope and supposed real-life occurrence called Marie Antoinette syndrome, where when people go through extremely traumatic situations, their hair turns white. This comes from an old tale where some say Marie Antoinette's hair turned white overnight the night of her execution. I am genuinely wondering if whatever this girl went through was so traumatic and terrifying that it turned her hair from black to white. Her tone is also very off for her young age. She's very monotone, even when being presented with what one would assume to be a child's paradise as a birthday gift. This also indicates trauma. Something happened to this little girl, and Orville is very clearly avoiding talking about it but feels a need to make it up to her. So what is it exactly? Also, in regards to Orville Park specifically, when we see Orville, it's hard to spot on the first watch, but he also has a blue splotch on his face, indicating he's infected with the blue lung all the way back at this time when Olivia is a young child. It makes me wonder if he is still around, or if he may possibly be a haunt the narrative type of character. So, with a lot of very intentional details and world building, we're already getting a lot of questions about Olivia and her relationship to Gwennavir and what exactly all of this means in the world of Park Planet. Now, of course, there is Princess Gwennavir herself, who is not only the face of Park Planet, but of course the face of the show itself. I think the thing that the pilot left us with the most questions about was Gwennavir herself. What did these dreamlight sequences mean? Who are the star pups that are around her? Did we watch her gain sentience in this moment? How many escape attempts has she truly had? What makes this particular Gwen model so important to Olivia? Because it's made very clear that there are many Gwen models all throughout the park. So why is this one so necessary for Olivia to have? Gwen is the character I instantly want to know more about, so I've been doing some research. If you look more into Dana Terrace's body of work, it becomes immediately apparent that what they really like to do is play with a lot of really fun monster designs. You can see a lot of these showcased in her book Skin and Bones, which is a sketch collection of a bunch of different designs and art that Dana has made throughout the years. If you look at Dana's work and listen to interviews, it's very apparent that she is very inspired by horror. In the Glitch interview, she actually directly mentions the Alien series. The Alien series is really well known in the horror genre for its uncanny sci-fi world the characters have to exist within. In fact, a lot of the motifs of the tubes and wires and vaguely humanistic organs within this Gwen android seems to possibly be inspired by the Alien series itself, in my opinion. The Alien franchise has these characters referred to as androids and synthetics, which if you know anything about Alien or have ever seen any of the visuals, it's interesting how these two might kind of correlate. We don't know anything about Gwen right now, and we literally have no information on her whatsoever that is from her perspective, so it's hard to make any real guesses on what Gwen is right now. But I'm genuinely wondering if the Gwens might be some sort of animalistic hive mind creature. And here's why. The only real information that we get about Gwen is that there are many Gwen models, but all of them can remember you. This is pretty much textbook hive mind consciousness, so that's what leads me this way. The possible inspiration from the Alien series is what also leads me this way, because the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise are known to have this sort of galaxy-spanning hive mind source with a sort of caste system, which also points to the Knights of Guinevere with its themes of regal caste systems. Dana has mentioned that her lore is very loosely based on Arthurian lore as well, which can be its whole own source to research for clues. Look, I don't know, this is a lot of speculation and my own opinions on the matter, but I can't wait to get more of Gwen as well. Then we have our two human characters, Frankie and Andy. It feels like we got more of Frankie in this pilot episode, so I'm excited to see more of Andy in what's to come, but there is definitely a lot of good Andy character stuff in this episode as well. But I want to start off by talking about Frankie first, because she's the one that interests me the most. I've seen a lot of discussion surrounding Frankie online, and not just people loving her for the big, beautiful butch woman that she is. One of the most fascinating discussions I've seen with Frankie's character is people wondering about her mental state. She talks to the stuffed star pups in one scene, and the scene with Frankie and Gwen as they are being attacked by Olivia's guard is being seen by some as a visual hallucination by Frankie, because of the way that Andy yells and seems to snap them back into the dangerous reality that's at hand in that very moment. I find this to be a really interesting take and possible direction for Frankie's character, but I personally can't help but wonder if it's less to do with mental state and more to do with the way she views the world. What I mean by this is Frankie and Andy are clearly foils of each other. They are both engineers with natural talent. While Andy has been on the inside and has already been chewed up and spit out by the corporation behind Park Planet's operations, Frankie seems to be the one that still idolizes the park and what Princess Gwennavir represents. The way that Frankie has these childlike talks with stuffed animals is what points me in this direction. Frankie still has a sense of childhood wonder and holds on to the feeling that that first meeting with the Gwen android left her. Now, there are other small character moments that may point to it being more of a mental state thing, but obviously we will just need more of the character to know for sure. I also want to take a moment to enjoy some of the character design of Frankie. I love that she has these imperfect crooked teeth and that we also got an explanation for it in character interactions. Sparky implying that she fights back with her teeth often, as well as maybe loses some teeth as a form of punishment when she's done something wrong in the past. Another small thing that I saw some people confused about online was the way that Sparky referred to Frankie by a different name. He called Frankie Franklin multiple times, and I saw many confused as to if this was her actual name or not. Well, if you'll allow me to punch in using my butch lesbian card, I think I can actually explain what's going on here. Throughout history, butch folk have used more masculine terms in places of work and in the public for a multitude of reasons. In The Stone Butch Blues by Leslie Feinberg, the main character chooses a man's name at their place of work so that they are addressed with the pronouns and titles that they prefer. Sometimes also, when a woman would work among men, the men would assign her a sort of man's name, to put it in simplistic terms, as an endearing nickname to make her feel part of the team or part of the whole. This is actually common to this day. There are many butches out there that use the more masculine names in public and or use an androgynous nickname, and Frankie just happens to do both. As a butch myself, I was actually really delighted to see that small character detail shown. Now let's talk Andy. A lot happens to Andy in this episode, but it's more subtle. She is shunned by a friend / old classmate for working for the park that they all hate. She loses her job off screen and also seems to contract blue lung right in front of our eyes. Andy is very clearly burnt out and bitter about being used and then let out to dry by Park Planet, and has some clear opinions on the company as a whole by the time we meet her. But a lot of the work that she actually did there is still a mystery. We of course saw her repairing a sort of dino animatronic, but I'm sure that that's very surface level compared to some of the things that she saw and worked on, even at her low level state in the company. Sparky says,
"Those lab rats are always up to their necks in sick shit."
And I believe Andy knows this all too well at this point. One of the other things that also caught my attention with Andy was this.
Oh, nice! What fixed it?
Oh, a hunch.
This happens right after Frankie says that Park Planet wants to
Splice the facial controls into the environmental pipeline.
and that it isn't a.
Very sophisticated solution.
Andy then realizes something, does something, and it works. So I'm curious if Andy knows something that we don't, or if whatever she did that fixed it is exactly what got her fired. Only time and more episodes will tell for sure. I'm hoping next episode, since we left off in the labs waking Gwen up, that we will perhaps get to see more of the labs and get some exposition from Andy about all of the whack things that go on within them. All in all, this is a fantastic pilot episode, and in my opinion is one of Glitch's best to date. I'm very excited to see Dana Terrace jump into the world of sci-fi horror and absolutely scare the shit out of every single one of us. What are your thoughts? Do you have any theories? Feel free to have those conversations with me and others in the comments.